JQ is a tool for filtering and querying JSON. Although it's not a core utility like, let's say, sed or awk, I tend to use it a lot more in my day-to-day life because, well, everything prints out JSON. You can run JQ, of course, with JQ, and then you have to specify an identity filter. In this case, we're going to use the period within single quotes. This period is representing the object that is being passed into JQ as the input, and because we don't want to do any filtering to that input, we're just going to pass it back to the output by only specifying the period. Of course, we need to give JQ some JSON to work with, so I actually have JSON in this d.json file. Now, what JQ is going to do now is just print to the screen what we passed in as input, in this case, that d.json, and it's going to print and colorize it for us. In this d.json, we just have a few different keys. We have user, API version, and API name. And within user itself, we have an object that has keys recursively inside of it. If we wanted to select an individual key, we can go back to that individual filter, that period there, and we can select a key right off of that initial object by just specifying a key. In this case, if we want the API name, we can just say API name right after that period, and we're only going to get returned to the screen the value of API name. Now, this is always going to be JSON formatted output. So in this case, it's double quotes, right? Even though it's not like a key value, it's still within double quotes. That may confuse other programs you may want to pipe this to. So you can always use the -r command, and it's going to basically clean that up and allow you to output that to other programs. If you look back at this example above, we actually have these keys embedded or recursively within this user key. We can still select those within JQ. I'm actually going to remove this R by specifying or basically adding on the next key after the first key. We can do that, for example, if we want to select the object that is user. Actually, let's just print to the screen. We're only going to get that object, this user object, so this name, age, dog. And if we wanted to select name now, we would just add another period and then specify name. And now we're going to get to the screen the value of name that's within the user key itself. Something that may be helpful here later too is a little bit different syntax if you want to recursively unpack everything within JSON. If you take this one period and you add a period right next to it, basically you have two periods right next to each other, it's going to just print to the screen all of the different iterations of the values. So here we get the overall structure of the JSON. Now we just get the value of user, and now we get the individual value of all the different items within user and also the API version, API name. Something that might be helpful if you're trying to, let's say, search through things or find different keys. Now, moving on, a lot of the JSON you probably use in your day-to-day life is a lot more complicated than the one you see here. It probably looks like this. I'm going to cat out to the screen this min.json, and as you can see, this is kind of a nightmare. Now, what this is supposed to be is the JSON output of a to-dos API. There's 200 different to-dos here. Now, it's been minified, and you've probably all been there trying to basically just, human read what the output is. Now, you can use JQ to simply print this, right? And you'll probably get a long way with just using JQ and the period, and you now can read each and every object that was within that JSON output. If we were to take a look at this individual JSON though, we notice these are objects within an overall parent array. Now, JQ of course handles this. This is valid JSON. JQ has this syntax called array iteration, and we can specify that with just square brackets here. And what these square brackets are specifying after this first period or within the filter is that it's going to unpack or pull out all of these objects out of the array and just return them individually. So as you see, they're not even comma separated anymore. They're not within the individual array. This is actually printing each object individually or specifying to the output each and every object. There's a distinction that matters a bit later. Now, you can do different things within these square brackets like you can in other languages, or specifying, let's say, an index. You can get the 0th index of an item or just the first item by putting a 0 in there. You can also specify a range, like let's say 2:4, if I can type. And what this is going to do is give us the third item or the second index item and the third index item, but not the fourth. So when you're doing a range, understand that the first element that you're putting in a range is inclusive, the second element of the index, but we're not going to have the fourth element of the index. Now you can also use negatives here. Like let's say I wanted the last two items. I can use -2 here and then a colon, and it's going to give me the last two items of the array. Now, when you specify a range, it's actually going to give you back an array. When you don't specify a range or you specify an individual item, it's just going to specify the object, something that may be a nuance that might catch you up later. So kind of play around with that and see what the output's going to be. Just like you did previously, let's just say we want the title of the 5th element. We can specify the 5th index here and then just dot and select the key that we want to select here, in this case, title. Now, we could actually specify that we want multiple different items printed to the output here by separating the filter that we want to do with a comma. So in this case, let's say we want the title of the 5th element, but we also want the ID of the 5th element. We can specify both these filters separately with a comma, and it's going to print to the screen the title of the 5th element and the ID. Now, there's a cleaner way to do this, because if, let's say this was a complicated filter, we don't want to copy and paste every time we want to select something. Also, it gets a little funky. Let's say we don't specify an individual item. Let's say we want this to filter not on an individual item, but on all objects within this todos.json. And we can see we actually get a weird output. Instead of getting the titles next to the individual IDs, we now get all of the titles individually outputted and then all of the IDs individually outputted. Now, the way we can fix this, or one of the ways we can fix this, is actually have JQ pipe into JQ again, and then specify that we want the individual title and individual ID for each of these outputs. Remember I said it's going to output each object individually when we do this array iteration, and now it's going to pipe each of those objects now into JQ again, which is going to get the title and ID. And what we're going to get to the screen is the title and ID of each object next to each other. Now, there's actually a simpler way to do this within JQ. You can actually use the pipe within your JQ filter. So in this case, we'll remove the second call of JQ. We'll basically shove the filters together. We'll put a pipe in there and we'll get the exact same output. This pipe is really helpful because then you can do basically filtering on each object that you're passing through. So you can kind of chain together larger filters. But we can now begin to manipulate the structure of the JSON. For example, let's say I wanted to add a new key and value to each one of these objects. Let's say we want to have a key called points to represent the amount of story points we predict each one of these to-dos is going to take. I know, a little PTSD for you software engineers out there. So let's add a points key here, and we can add points by just specifying a key and then using the equal sign. It's similar to assigning a variable in a programming language you're probably used to. We're assigning this key a value. In this case, let's say every one of these to-dos base level points is 2. So when we run this now, after breaking down the array or unpacking it, we're now going to see each object. Everything's the same with the addition of this key that is points and this value that is 2. We can continue to manipulate the JSON if we would like. Another thing we can do is completely restructure the keys and map those new keys to values that already exist. For example, let's say we wanted this title to be called to do, and let's say we want, instead of completed, we wanted to just print to the screen status, but we still wanted to map the title of each one of these objects and the value of completed to these new keys. We can do that by recreating JSON using curly brackets, and then we can specify a new key. In this case, if we wanted to call it to do, we can use colon, and then we can specify a value here. In this case, we want to pick the title. .title is going to select the individual title and put the value to the to-do. Now we can use a comma here. We want JSON here. And we can also specify what we said earlier. We want a key called status, and we want that mapped to the value of completed. Now when we run this, it's now going to print to the screen each object that has to do, which is the previous title, and then the status, which is the value or the Boolean value that was completed. So in this case, status is true because previously the completed was true for this individual object. Now, JQ works with other things that aren't just JSON. If we wanted to modify this, and let's say we wanted to print to the screen a string, we can specify a string with double quotes here, and let's say to do is, and then we want to specify a title, and we could do that with the parentheses, but because we're in double quotes here, we actually have to escape it. It's a little confusing. You might have to look at the syntax in the future. So let's say we want to specify the title, and then we have to close it with double quotes again. What this is doing, if we, again, unpack the syntax, is we're just specifying a string with double quotes, we're saying what we want our string to do is, and then we're specifying the individual value that we want to pass to the screen. And now every single object is going to print to the screen to do is, and then the name or the title of the to do. Let's go back to our basic array iteration syntax and pipe that to nothing right now. So JQ also has some built-in functions, actually a lot of built-in functions that we can use that are going to manipulate the data or present the data in a certain way. Now, just going over a few of the ones that I use all the time, starting with the function that is keys. You can just use a function by typing it out. So in this case, we're taking each and every object, we're piping it to keys, and this is now going to print the key for each and every object. Now, we're again filtering through all of these different objects, but this is helpful if, let's say, you're given a whole bunch of JSON and you want to parse through, you can use the keys to then figure out what you can select against to maybe recursively go through a large JSON file. Another thing that's helpful here is the length function, and this is, if I can spell length, and this is going to print out the length of each object here. Of course, this is less helpful because all these objects are the same, but if we were to remove the array iteration here, it's now going to give us the overall length of that array. Functions can also sometimes take individual arguments. For example, we have this map function. This is going to allow us to change the value across the board over our full JSON file. So in this case, we're going to map the ID, and then we're going to add 1 to each ID of our object. It's going to print to the screen everything exactly the same, except now it's mapping ID, and this syntax here, we're just adding 1 to each and every ID. Another example here is, let's say we wanted to modify the title by making the title equal, let's say, override title. And this is now going to map to the screen override title for each title. Let's say we didn't want to override and we just wanted to append. We can actually use that syntax we used previously, like what you would see in a programming language, right? Using the plus equal sign. And now we're just going to add override title to each and every title here. We didn't add a space in the actual string, so that's why they're like clobbering together. Let's add a dash dash so it's clear. And here you can see override title on each one of these titles. Another helpful function here that takes an argument is the select function. This will allow us to select individual keys and values using basic logic. So in this case, let's say we only wanted to select IDs above 197. We can then use greater than equal to, and then we could specify 197 here. Oh, in this case, it's expecting the individual object, not the array. So we actually have to go back to this period and add the array iteration. Now it's only going to show the objects that are equal to or above 197. Another example here is, let's say we just wanted to select to-dos with the completed value of true. We can specify the key with completed, and then we're saying it has to equal true, and this is now going to show us only those values that have completed equals true. Now, we also can get some new complex logic. JQ is actually turn and complete, and here we have some basic control flow with an if-then statement. Here we can see cat min JSON like we've been doing previously, simulating that curl, right? That we're getting this from a different location. Then we're going into JQ and we're doing our array iteration. And then we have this if statement, and this if statement is checking this condition right after it, which we put in parentheses. And that is basically saying if ID is modulus 2, or ID modulus 2 equals 0, if it's even, essentially, then we want to set the value of points to 4, else we're passing in this period, so we're saying else return it as is, and then we have this end statement. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through, and if the ID is even, it's going to add a key of points and set it to 4. Now, the really fun thing, if we clear the screen, is you can go crazy with this. For example, here on the screen is essentially fizz buzz in JQ. What we're saying is if modulus 3 equals 0 and modulus 5, so if it's divisible by 3 and 5, then we're going to set points to 8. Else if ID is divisible by 5, then points to 5. Elif, again, if divisible by 3, then points to 3, else points 1. What this is going to now do is it's going to now return each and every to-do based on the ID. If the ID number is divisible by 5 and 3, it's going to give us 8, basically fizz buzz. If it's divisible by just 5, it's going to give us 5 fizz. And if it's divisible by 3, it's going to give us buzz. And if it's not divisible by either of those, it's just going to give us 1, right? Of course, we could actually print to the screen fizz buzz instead, but you get the point. I doubt you're going to be doing that example very much, but understand that there's a lot of power you can do with JQ, and this could be really helpful. Let's say you want to pseudo randomize, data. That was just barely scratching the surface on functions that are built into JQ. There's a lot of different math you can do. You can reverse things, you can sort, you can do basic stats with min, max, and absolute values. There's a ton of functions. I encourage you to go check out the JQ documentation. It's pretty good on this, and it goes pretty deep with the different things you can do. That's JQ. Very basic getting started. I recommend taking a look at their documentation online. It's really good. I'll also include some install and directions in the description down below. Thanks. Have a good one.